My name is Mia Krusinski. I'm on the women's soccer team, and you're listening to Meep Nation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meep Nation, your source for all things Roadrunner. I'm your host, Christian Rao, here with my co-host and co-founder of Meep Nation, Caleb Hopkins. Caleb, we have a great episode for you today. We talked about UTSA football in the post-game show live. It did have to be stopped a little short. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear, so if you notice, I'm wearing corded earbuds in this one. But if you want to check out our UTSA football post-game, check it out in the last episode if you're listening on podcast, or head on over to our YouTube page and check out Jeremy and I breaking down UTSA taking care of business in Denton. And I see a little bags underneath your eyes, Caleb, and it might be the fact that you got an extra hour's sleep, not sure, or you had a long trip back from Denton. But either way, you had a great time, and I'm sure it was awesome getting that dub for UTSA. Before we get going to our initial thoughts, and we have some great interviews from UTSA soccer, just want to real fast get your quick little takeaway from UTSA football defeating North Texas and Denton. And I'm sure you have a lot to talk about, but what's just your initial thoughts?
Yeah, well, I was around for the first win we had in 2013, or at the last one we had in the whole Dallas area. Past games we've been to, weather hasn't been the best. This one was perfect. Could not have asked for better weather. Had a great time there. Not having the bad weather meant we didn't have any excuses. We had to get Frank his first win in Denton and pulled through. We're bowl eligible. It's going to be a really exciting finish to the season for the American Championship.
Absolutely, I agree. And not only did we get Frank his first win, we also got more people mad at Frank for apparently being too old, but he took care of it for himself on social media, so we don't have to do that for him. But let's get into what we really want to talk about today, and that's UTSA soccer. They had a fun season. It did come to an end. Just missed the conference tournament this season. After winning Conference USA last year, they step up to the American, and they had some great games, but it was just shy of the conference tournament. We're going to talk to head coach Derek Pittman, head coach of UTSA soccer. He's going to break it down the season and a couple other things that we have really just been wondering. What's going on with UTSA soccer? Where do we see it moving? And then after that, we're going to have a quick little icebreaker with Meep Nation's athletes, very own Mia Krusinski, goalkeeper for UTSA. Just a quick little icebreaker, if you will, about getting to know Mia Krusinski. So I hope you enjoy this episode. We'll see you on the other side. All right, we are here with Derek Pittman, the head coach of UTSA soccer. Caleb and I are excited to get the chance to ask you a few questions about this recent season. Coach, how you doing?
Doing well. It's been a little difficult digesting the off season. Today is always a tough day. It's Championship Sunday and a lot of conference tournaments, and obviously, as a coach, we always want to be playing on those important days. We were last year winning a trophy and competing for the championship in Conference USA. And, it's never easy to be at home watching those games. But, definitely motivation, in my opinion, when it comes to getting ready and preparing. And we're going to be right back to training tomorrow. So, yeah, things are going well, and excited about, moving forward into the off season.
That's exactly what I like to hear, saying you're getting ready to go the day after Championship Sundays. Coach, you head into new territory, really, with this season being the program's jump to the American Athletic Conference. You mentioned last year, Conference USA champions, heading into the AAC. What was your initial takeaways on this season and playing in that new conference?
It's really tough, no doubt. And no disrespect to Conference USA. Conference USA, definitely, we had some really tough opponents, and that was never more evident this year, watching Florida Atlantic and Charlotte and some other programs do very well in the American this season. I think it was twofold. It was definitely every match our players learned that the margins got smaller. Whereas maybe in the past we've beaten teams in Conference USA 2 or 3 or 4-0, whatever it might be. There was no room to switch off against the American opponents. I mean, Memphis being in the top 10 most of the season and winning the championship today. SMU, very, very good. South Florida, very good. Tulsa had a great year. East Carolina is always difficult. So I think every match, just the margins got smaller, and our players were able to learn from that there's really no time to switch off. You can't take plays off. You can't feel sorry for yourself because the shot didn't go in or we get scored on. You got to just pick yourself back up and keep going. And so a lot of lessons were learned in that regard, and I was proud of our players and how we progressed. The exciting thing is to be honest, I think we're a lot closer than maybe you originally thought. Obviously, we're not happy with where we finished in the standings, being 1 point out of 8th place and going to the conference tournament. But we weren't getting blown out. We weren't getting, walking away from games going, oh my gosh, we're miles behind, where some of these programs are. We know we got to get better, and we're ready to roll up our sleeves and get back to work in both recruiting and development of our current roster. But, the nice thing is we set some program records defensively. We did some really positive things this season. And shown that we can play with just about anybody in the conference. I think through the regular season, we played defensively the best any team played all season long against, Memphis. Memphis was a very talented team, scored somewhere in the neighborhood of 35, 40 goals this season, maybe more. I've lost count. But they got some tremendous weapons, and I think we did very, very well against them. Same thing against SMU. Same thing against South Florida. Some really high-powered offenses, and our team defense was fantastic in those games. And really, our team defense was fantastic all year long. We just lacked a goal-scoring punch up front. But a lot of positives to definitely take away from this first season in the American.
So going off of the defensive subject, let's talk about the goalkeeping. The goals allowed on average across the board, all three combined an average that set a school record, as well as Kessler, the freshman goalie, also having a school record of her own. Do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, very fortunate, to be honest with you. Coming a bit of a goalkeeper university here, I guess. Obviously it's dear to my heart because that's what position I played. I think a moniker of our teams, my teams, are always going to be defense first, if you will. We're always going to be very organized defensively. And we defend as an entire group from the front all the way to the back. As well as we try to attack with everybody as well. Our goalkeeper is our first attacker, and she sets the tone. So, but as far as the records and the performances out of all three of our goalkeepers this year was really, really positive. We start out the year, we knew Mia Krusinski coming off of last season was going to be our number one. And coming out of preseason camp was not a shock that Mia was clearly our number one. It was great to see competition between Izzo and Kessler behind her. And that's when we kind of first really started to realize, we've got, not just one or two good goalkeepers. We've got really three talented goalkeepers. And we always knew what Jasmine could bring to the table. I just didn't know how quickly she would adapt, just like any freshman. And the nice thing, the plan was, to be fair, is the thought process was probably redshirt her this year. But after the first 5 games or so, and unfortunately the injury that Mia picked up, being on the road, Isabel stepped in. Izzo did a phenomenal job against Cal Baptist to get a shutout against a very talented Cal Baptist team on the road. And then it was open competition between the two of them when we got back, between Kessler and Izzo. We knew that Mia was going to be out for a little bit of time, not knowing how quickly she would return from the injury. And so it was healthy competition between Kessler and Izzo, and ultimately my gut was to go with Kessler. Her kicking game is exceptionally good. She just has a ability about herself to kind of move on to the next play. She doesn't really dwell too much on a mistake or even a positive save. She just is there to do her job. She has a really good mentality as a goalkeeper. And so I think it wasn't easy for Izzo to understand that, coming off of a really good shutout against Cal Baptist, and then for me to move in a different direction and go with another goalkeeper in the upcoming games. But I think in the end, honestly, maybe points out one or two pretty key mistakes that Kessler made, but overall she was very, very good in goal. I think her confidence grew. Our team's confidence grew with her in the goal. Obviously, she was a tremendous weapon for us to be able to clear our lines from the goal, from our own defensive end, but also even just a tremendous weapon taking set pieces for us in and around midfield, being able to, launch the ball 50, 60 yards into the opponent's box. So there was a lot of things she brought to the table that were different than maybe past goalkeepers we've had, but really happy with all three of them. Their camaraderie in training, their demeanor off the field with each other. Izzo's aspirations is to be a coach one day, and it was really cool through preseason. Even as Kessler won out the job and was our starting goalkeeper, Izzo was one of her biggest cheerleaders and biggest coaches. So we'd be in training, and I'd just sit there and watch Coach Colleen with our goalkeepers, and Izzo was coaching Kessler just as much as Colleen was. And, that was encouraging to see, an older player embracing her role. There's no doubt she didn't like it, didn't want to sit behind, somebody else and be the backup as long as she was. And then even as Mia came back and Izzo kind of fell maybe to the third string role, it was just really a huge credit to their mentality, their training habits, and their friendship and their selflessness to be able to put the team first. And so I think that made Kessler even more comfortable as the season went on, that she even said at times in our end of the year meeting, she was just waiting for us to kind of pull her once Mia came back in. And I was like, no, you're our goalkeeper. We're sticking with you. And, and so it'll be a healthy competition. I've told them going into the off season, it's up to whoever wins it. We're going to try to give every one of you an opportunity throughout the entire spring and obviously on into August next year to solidify who's going to be our starting goalkeeper. And that's definitely a position I haven't been in since being here at UTSA. We've usually only had one really good goalkeeper and maybe an average backup or, whoever's playing behind them. The best competition we had was probably a bit between Sophie Milic and Jill Schneider back in 2019. And but other than that, Jill Schneider had been our goalkeeper for a long period of time until Mia won out the job at the end of last year. So yeah, it's exciting. We're very secure in that position, that we feel very confident what they can do moving forward.
Sounds like a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have. It's hard because I think unlike any other positions, if I've got three really good, outside backs, right, and I can only play two of them or I can only play one of them, I'm going to find a role for somebody else. I'm going to find a role for, to put them in a different position, et cetera, et cetera. So you look for those opportunities and, hope to be able to, those are healthy problems to have.
Well, I know defensively, you mentioned how proud you were of the efforts against Memphis, who just won the conference. What would you say overall was your favorite game of the season?
Whew, that's a great question. Unfortunately, as coaches, right, we think of the worst, but
all the above is cheating.
Yeah, there you go. Honestly, really, really proud of our team, and probably my favorite game of the season, as far as our performance, was probably at home here against Florida Atlantic. It was a game that we really challenged the team. We needed to win, and we needed to get a result. And although it ended up finishing in a 0-0 tie, there's not a single thing in that entire game I think that I could pick that we didn't do well. I thought we attacked exceptionally well. I think we outshot them like 19-3 on the night. They had, we came out just absolutely hammering on all pistons, if you will, and all cylinders. Is that we were creating chances. Their goalkeeper stood on their head and made some pretty significant saves that night. We hit the post. We had set piece after set piece after set piece, and just everything we were doing that night. It was interesting. I was actually talking to their head coach, who I'm good friends with, and was a little bit of a mentor of mine, Patrick Baker. After about the 12th minute, they fouled Sophie Morin at that time, and I don't think they got out of their own end the rest of the half. And in fact, they did not register their first shot until about 65 minutes into the game. And they had a couple dangerous opportunities in the end. And to be honest, you would talk about Jasmine Kessler had nothing to do the entire, game. And then the last probably 10 minutes, she had 2 massive saves to make. And that's what made her great all season. There will be times where she didn't have a whole lot of chances or a whole lot of things to worry about, but then she would stand on her head when she needed to and do what we needed her to in those moments. And that was critical. It was huge. But, disappointed that the result didn't go our way. We definitely needed those 3 points. If we had won that game, we would have been in the conference tournament. But I don't fault our kids for their performance and how they carried the game plan out and what they did and everything. We asked them to do both offensively and defensively. I thought it was our most probably complete game that we had all season long. And it was fun to play in front of a big crowd as well. So
awesome. Coach, as you say goodbye to this season, you're also saying goodbye to 7 seniors on the squad this year. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're going to be facing as a coach and a team, replacing the talent and the leadership of those 7?
Yeah, I mean, I can go down the list of these 7 seniors that, Avery Cheney even is still kind of on the fence of whether she's going to come back for her 5th and final year. But, she was a tremendous player for us, transferring to us from Texas Tech, and, her role that she played for us. Marley Frey coming off the bench, scoring some critical goals for us along her career. And her being a captain, being a leader, she was fantastic. Mackenzie Kaufhold, Michaela Cortez, although maybe their success didn't show up necessarily in box scores, they were tremendous leaders in our locker room, just culture kids that, as Coach Traylor has his pillar killers, are kind of guys like these are the people that in our program that, we're very much the glue and helping our young players develop and grow and become better human beings and better players. And then you go into Alex Granville, Alyssa Stewart, and then, the Iron Man, Deja Sandoval, playing 87 games for us. I think it started 84 of those games. She was tremendous. Again, all 3 of them. Alyssa Stewart transferring to us. Alex Granville had some ups and downs throughout her career, but was always a mainstay for us in the back. And then, like I said, Deja was tremendous. She never really wore the captain's armband, but she was one of our silent leaders behind the scenes. She set fitness records here. Again, as you can tell, she was always taking care of herself to be, looking back there and thinking that Deja Sandoval is not going to be in our center back position is a little bit sad. Big shoes to fill for sure. Just like replacing Kendall Close it was for us last year. And so there's definitely, and then the last one I can't go without saying is Serena Russ. Serena Russ was absolutely big time. She's another kid that just, her story is really unique. To be fair, when I got the job here, I had been recruiting her to the University of Idaho. And I was down to, at the University of Idaho, I was actually down to 2 kids, Serena and another kid out of California. And I chose the other kid out of California. And then but like a month later, obviously I got this job, and luckily Serena was still available. And so I went immediately after her, and we were able to secure her commitment to come here. And it was probably one of the best first commitments I got in my entire time here, because again, another kid that just doesn't do a lot from a goal scoring or assist standpoint, but she has been an absolute monster in the midfield for us. She's kind of our, she's what I'd call a destroyer. She disrupts teams' flow. She does not allow teams to get in rhythm, just how she organizes things in front of her. She just does a lot of really little things exceptionally well that allows the playmakers. We talk on all the time as a coaching staff, you got to have piano players and you got to have piano movers. And she's a piano mover, and she does a lot of the dirty work that no one sees, so that the artists and the creative people can go do what they do. And so that's probably the hardest thing, is replacing those players that have been piano movers and just kids that have just grinded for years to get our program where we are, and helping the young players coming through our system now, is because those kids remember what it was like to have nothing. Like, we didn't have a nice locker room. We didn't have nice equipment. We didn't travel exceptionally well. We weren't winning all of these games and having a trophy in the cabinet. That wasn't something that these kids signed up for when they first came here. And now kids coming in the door, like, they don't realize all of the work that's been put in before they got here. And that's what this senior class represents for me, is those kids that took a chance on us before we were any good, before we were, winning championships and competing at the highest level. They came here well before any of that stuff happened.
Well, speaking of that, all those new things that are at your disposal this season, Park West has the new field house that was introduced in 2023. How has that helped you in your first year using it?
Oh, it's been huge. I mean, like, just the fact our kids have a place to get their laundry done, like that it seems like the most simple thing.
Right.
Our kids for the last 5 years, and this year being my 6th season, for the last 5 years of my time here, and obviously before that, our kids were doing their own laundry. Like, we would get them 2 or 3 sets of practice gear, and now we're able to give them 4 or 5 sets of practice gear. But the fact that they're not having to go home and make sure it's done and all that stuff, like, that simple little thing, just having a place to store, extra cleats or suitcases or just equipment that we have, just, again, it goes a long, long way. The fact that we can walk straight off the field and into a training room and not into a closet, or for our locker room not to be trying to utilize a makeshift ticket office and turn it into a locker room. It just, all of those things really matter. To have a place to walk in, and our kids have a place to shower after training, just a lounge to be able to watch TV and hang out in between or before and after practice or before and after games. A place to call home. It has been, I know our players really appreciate it, and they absolutely love it. And it's been massive for us in recruiting, helping out with our 2024 class, as well as some of the verbal commitments we've been fortunate enough to be able to secure for 2025. So, yeah, even a place to just watch film or meet with players and not have to do it out of the field or back on campus. And again, the race facility is phenomenal. The weight room, the training room, all of the resources we have in the race facility. But to have what we have now out at Park West, it is an absolute game changer. It's to the point where even the University of Memphis was like asking me for our floor plans and our schematics, because they're trying to build something similar. And so excited about that and where that puts us on the map as we continue to move forward in this really tough league.
Love to hear it.
So UTSA soccer broke an attendance record at Park West this season with 7,002 fans in the stands. What are your thoughts on the increased support to the program this season?
Well, I appreciate you and Farrah being the two, right? Just to get us over the hump, right? So break that record. But no, you know what? This goes all the way back to 2018. When I got here, we sat down with the team at that time and we talked about, hey, let's get it all out. What's the good? What's the bad? What needs to change? What do we want to keep doing? What are some aspirations? Did that team at that time, the program that I had inherited in those players, like, what do we want to do? Like, how do we want to make this something really special? And so we kind of went through our core values at that time. That's kind of when we developed our whole, pillars of our program and the foundation we wanted to be standing on, that we still stand on to today with our core values. But one of the big things about it was about building a community and creating an environment. So, so we talked about, what do we want to do? What do we want to create? What do we want to make this not just on the campus community, but also for the community of San Antonio? And that's been a huge thing for us that we wanted to grow the following across campus. We wanted to get the band out to our games. And for the first time ever this year, we had the band out for 3 of our matches. That was huge. Sosa was big. Even just the relationships that we've built with our, local soccer community, with some of the local youth clubs, getting them out. But even just the student crowd that would come out. And again, we've had this whole Run as One program going on for a long time in our athletic department, which has been huge. And a lot of teams that come out and support us, man, it gives me tremendous pride sitting there watching Coach Henson and Coach Batista and again, Coach Hallmark going down the list, Coach Karen and Van and, Carol, all of these coaches that come out and support our program and many more of the athletes that come out and support us, because I do think we play an entertaining style of soccer. I think it's a lot of fun. We are not a team that just sits back and absorbs, is boring and fall asleep. Like even in that game I mentioned about Florida Atlantic tying 0-0, but we had 19 shots. It was just like, it was entertaining. It's like, we're going to put on a show. And we talked about that back in 2018. So if you had told me we were going to average over 800, roughly 875 fans a game here 5-6 years later, I'd tell you you're crazy. I think last year, even in a championship year, we averaged only like 450, maybe just short of 500. And so for that to jump to what it did this year was fantastic. And it's credit to our marketing team, but it's a really big credit to our coaching staff, what Coach Colleen, Coach Ben, Coach Peter all did to grow that, support from our local community. And we cannot thank people enough. I mean, for us to set not just an attendance record, but also be number one in the American in attendance was huge. I mean, I think the next closest one was averaging like 650. And so for us to be at 875 and pushing a couple games above 1,000 this year, which I think we'd only hit over 1,000 maybe one or two other times in my first 5 years here. So to be able to do that twice this season is huge. And we don't take that for granted. And we're very thankful to have so many people coming out to support us at Park West.
Well, and especially having the all of those youth teams come out. I mean, them getting to see the program and be as successful as they are. Those are future recruits.
You hope so. Yeah, you hope so. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like our camps have continued to go up during the summer, and with that, obviously, kids are having a tremendous experience coming out to our games. It's nice that it's free, and the parents get to come out and enjoy it. Now we just got to get the food trucks out there so that we can, grow that piece of it, or sort out our beer garden as we keep talking about, Caleb. Right? So
the beer garden behind the goal must have.
Yeah, we're going to get that done. So yeah, and that's the thing is, San Antonio is a tremendous soccer community, no doubt, and we just need to keep finding ways to tap into it. And we've grown it little by little by little every year. And I saw a pretty big explosion this year, which is awesome. And we're excited to be able to continue that into next year as well.
Man, speaking of a beer garden in soccer, that sounds pretty good to me. Count me in.
The temptation is not for me to stop at halftime and go have one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Extra time we'll have to need for that one. Last couple questions here, Coach. Really appreciate you coming on board here on this interview here at Meep Meep Nation. But with the movement into the AAC, NIL opportunities, and the ever-changing way that we really see the college athlete in this last few seasons, how has one like the transfer portal and recruiting changed soccer over the past few seasons? And is it changed more with the step up into the new conference?
It definitely has changed. What my philosophy was when I first got here, and is still true. We just have to kind of go about it in different ways. But the number one thing we talk about all the time is we want to recruit high character, highly competitive, hardworking kids. Obviously, we want to recruit as talented of athletes as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, we want to always be bringing in high character kids that just work their socks off and they love to compete. And so those are a lot of times that's where we start. And so those are some of our very first questions when we start talking to coaches about their kids and who they are and what kind of people are they. Because as much as we want them to be ridiculously talented, if you're just not a good person, if you're a difficult kid to coach, and if you just are hard to manage, you're just not going to fit in well here. And, because it's just not a lot of fun to have to manage those kids every day and to be pulling teeth to get you to compete, or no matter what it is, right? I mean, I'm a firm believer in the whole deal of, just hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And so we want to recruit as highly talented kids as possible, but they've got to have the high character and they've got to have the competitiveness. And I think you see that from our kids every time they step out. They just absolutely compete their tails off. And as that happens, and as we continue to have success with that, then it also opens doors for us to continue recruiting higher and higher talented individuals. But the non-negotiable is the high character and competitiveness. And so those things are huge for us. Obviously, with the new facility coming on board was massive. The jump to the American was massive because now we're playing in, I think, one of the top 7 or 8 soccer conferences in the country. I mean, we're right outside the top, the Power 5. We're right there in the next group of 5, but mid-majors, which is big time. Conference USA was always kind of outside that top 10, if you will, 11th or 12th, probably across the country in leagues. So this jump into the American gets us an opportunity to play against some of the best of the best. And again, kids want to be able to do that and do that in a great city like San Antonio and on a great facility like Park West. So those things have helped us. We're definitely not moving away from those other pieces. The portal's definitely been huge for us as well, because I think there's many times when we will try to go in and recruit kids at the highest level, and for whatever reason, they choose to go Power 5. They'd rather go be a sub or a bench player at a Power 5 versus come here and be an elite kid that breaks records and does stuff that's never been done. And that's kind of the dilemma. And so we talk about that. Like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to come in? Do you want to go sit on the bench at that school? Or do you want to come here and break records and be a difference maker and put UTSA on the map? And we've definitely had some kids that have taken that risk and taken us up on that challenge. But oftentimes what happens is they need to go to that Power 5 school for a year or two and realize, I wasn't quite good enough to maybe play for them, or it didn't work out the way they want. But then that's when we hope that they had a tremendous experience with us, that they want to come back to us and bounce back, if you will. And whether that's a San Antonio kid, whether that's a South Texas kid, or that's a Dallas kid, or anywhere else across country, we've done very, very well with transfers, and mainly because of our culture. I mean, we're winning games, and that's great that now our winning is matching where our culture was. But our culture is what I think, because what's happening is that they'll go to whatever program it is, and their experience isn't great, and they weren't playing. So now they want to go somewhere where they can play and have a great experience. So that's where we kind of come in. And I think that how we design our program, centered around our core values and centered around the process of growing it each and every day, it is massive for us. And I think that's what sets us apart from other programs out there that might just be about wins and losses. Don't get me wrong, I want to win, and nothing gave me more joy than designing a championship ring last year after winning a trophy, right? I want to win, but I also want to do it the right way. And our kids know, and families know, that we're going to look after their daughter. I'm a girl dad. I've got 2 daughters myself, and that matters to me. I want my daughters to look up to those people that are on our roster. And I want to hopefully be a coach, a mentor, a leader that other dads are like, no, I feel comfortable sending my daughter to him, and he's going to look after them, not only as the coach, but also as a leader that's going to make sure that my daughter has a tremendous experience. And don't get me wrong, we're not perfect at it. There's times when kids, I think we get it right more times than not. And I think if you ask our players, even some of the players that have left our program, that it's hard to find a coaching staff that cares about their kids more than we do. And I think that that's extremely exciting for us. And so that's where that portal comes in to play, in regards to being able to find these kids that are looking for a home that they know they're going to be cared about first and have the opportunity to step on the field and make a difference. It means a lot. And so my faith is a big piece of that, who I am as a dad, who I am as a husband, as a friend, etc. All of that stuff, kind of bleeds into who I am as a coach and as a leader. So, the thing with NIL, you asked a question, like, honestly, I don't know about NIL, right? Like, meaning what I mean by that is it's starting to trickle into the soccer world. It's definitely been in football, baseball, basketballs, etc. Some of those more high profile TV sports, if you will. But for us in soccer, it's starting to, and we encourage our players to go out and seek those opportunities, because I do think being in a championship program like ours, people want to associate themselves with our athletes. So I'm all for it, fully supportive of it. But as far as us setting up different things and different opportunities, like maybe some other programs or other sports have to do, thankfully, I'm not having to be in the middle of that.
Love it. So you say you want to start off the right way. As you mentioned, the season for you sounds like it's starting tomorrow, Coach. So what's this off season consist of, and what are some ways that you are looking to immediately improve for this next season?
Don't get me wrong, I don't want to be training this time, because it meant that we were still playing or we're going into the NCAAs. But, this is the first time since 2019 that we've been in this situation where we didn't make the conference tournament. And we were mandated to give them a full week off after our last competition and last game. We did that all last week with just some individual meetings and sitting down with kids and collectively trying to come up with what's the plan for each of them to get better. And we've been able to do that. Our players know that this past season wasn't good enough. I think there's a lot of positives, but at the end of the day, we got to get better. And the only way I know how to do that is roll up our sleeves and get back to work. And so the next 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving is we'll be training 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they'll be lifting on Tuesdays and Fridays. So they'll get two lifts in for the week, and then 3 training sessions along with some conditioning work, just to kind of keep them in the framework. We're going to do a lot of playing. Don't get me wrong. It is going to be, if you will, it's not open gym like you might have in basketball, but it is going to be a little bit of, hey, we're going to do some technical work and then we'll roll the balls out and play. 4v4, 6v6, 9v9, different numbers of different things. And just giving an opportunity for kids to just get back to enjoying playing with some, specific guidelines or objectives. But at the end of the day, just to go out and enjoy themselves. And then we'll take a pretty big break, really, in honesty, because when they come back after Thanksgiving, we're right back into finals pretty quickly. And then they take a month off pretty much from December 15th to about January 15th before we come back from winter break. We send them home with a winter workout, and obviously we hope that they do it and they come back fit. And then when we get back in January, it's right back to it. And, the springtime is where we hope to make a lot of progress. We hope to bring in maybe a couple transfers as well to freshen up the roster, to keep bringing in new blood, which I think is always important. Kids that can keep pushing the envelope forward. And, that'll be a good acclimation period for them throughout the spring. So excited about that. We've got we're trying to finalize our schedule for next fall as we go into the upcoming months, trying to lock that in. With SMU leaving the league, we're still waiting on our exact conference schedule. So that's a little bit up in the air right now. But once they have that, we should have our fall schedule set pretty quickly. And I think we got a couple little surprises, at least one really big home game that I'm excited about if we can get this sucker nailed down, a big Power 5 program coming into town. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're excited about, getting back to work tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Coach, for joining us on this show here. As we wrap up this interview, we definitely got to get you on again once we get closer to the season. Again, we would love to see you in the conference tournament. We know it's going to happen in the years coming. Again, thank you so much. But before we let you go, what can UTSA students and fans do to benefit UTSA soccer as we wait for next season to begin?
That's a great question. Just keep, we're trying to do everything we can to continue to keep UTSA soccer at the forefront, right? We want to keep getting better. And so definitely celebrating our players and all the records and things that we did from this past year. But upcoming, we're going to have some spring matches over the months of March and April. So we'd love to have everybody come out. We should have 2 or 3 matches at that time, get people back out to not forget about UTSA soccer as we continue to roll through the winter and springtime. And then, any of our camps, any of our stuff going on, we'd love to have as many people attend as possible. And then, we always appreciate, the one thing is we talk about with donors, right? I get it. Football needs their stuff. Basketball needs their stuff. But man, anybody that's willing to continue to support our women's sports, especially our women's Olympic sports, your money goes a long way, because our programs definitely need your support, and that money gets almost stretched farther, because we're not some of the sports that always, although we're well supported, it doesn't mean that we're always getting all of the big donors and all the big fundraising pieces that's maybe some other bigger sports get. So anybody who wants to talk about that, I'm always game, and I appreciate everybody and all the 210 fans that we have that continue to support our program.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Coach. That's going to wrap it up for this episode with Coach Pittman, the head coach of UTSA soccer.
Thanks, guys.
Just want to take a brief second to talk about the Runners Rising Project here at UTSA. Join the Runners Rising Project in providing NIL opportunities for student athletes. Together, we can shape UTSA's athletic legacy. Rise with us and donate today at runnersrisingproject.org.
This is Wayne with Runners Rising, and you're listening to Meep Meep Nation. Go Birds.
All right, and we're back with another interview today. This time we're going to be talking to Mia Krusinski, goalkeeper for UTSA soccer. Really excited to finally get a chance to chat with the Meep Meep Nation athlete herself. Mia, welcome into the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, really looking forward to it. We're going to just discuss a couple things, little icebreakers, if you will, just to get the viewers a little bit to know a little bit more about Mia. We're going to talk about maybe the typical day in the life of a UTSA soccer player, talk a little bit more about your major, and just a couple other things as we wrap up this episode here of Meep Meep Nation. So, Caleb, go ahead first. What you got for Mia here?
Hey, Mia. First, let's talk about your major. How many semesters do you have left here? Just a little bit about the academic side.
So I'm a kinesiology major, and I'm concentrating in health sciences. And after this semester, I have one more to go until I graduate. So I graduate this May in the spring. So really exciting. The light is at the end of the tunnel, and most of the hard classes are done. So I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, and it feels good when that's finally done. You said that you are a health science major. What's your plans in the future that you want to use that degree for?
So right now I still have one more year of eligibility. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit next year. And then there's a 1-year master's in business that I can do. So I'm going to expand my horizons a little bit and see if I can do something with that route. If not, I would like to maybe be a physical therapist still after that. Just kind of depends on where that all takes me. But all the options are open in the best way possible.
Love that. All right. So we talked about your major. Obviously, you said you still have one more year left of eligibility. We had a conversation with Coach Pittman early on today as well. And it was the beginning of this episode. He said practice is starting tomorrow. So you're already getting some things starting off for you. But take me through, what's a typical day look like in the life of a UTSA soccer player like yourself?
Well, in season, we start with film at 7 a.m. usually, and then we practice till around 9:30, 10. And then depending on the day, we'll either get a lift in, and if not, it's shower and go to class, eat, sleep. It's just kind of a continuous cycle of Thursday, Sunday games, and you're busy, but it's good to be busy, and it's good to be able to get outside and do everything and still kill it in the classroom.
So who is like the biggest, so when we're talking about lifting, and weightlifting, who's the one that you got to watch out for in the gym?
Oh, shit. There's a lot of us that we do lift heavy, especially off season. But the people who come to mind right now are Marley Frey. She can bench like a maniac too. And then Sabrina Hillier, absolute monsters in the weight room. I look at their rack and my rack, and I'm like, boy, I got to get there soon.
Love that. All right. And then we talked a little bit about your day in the life. You've been with UTSA for a few seasons now after transferring over. What's your favorite game for your career so far? What's your favorite moment? Is it here at UTSA?
Yeah, my favorite moment is definitely here. I've had a lot of good games in my career, and I had really good games at FGCU as well. But I think my two favorite are obviously winning the conference championship. That last game was such an emotional roller coaster, but also it was so fun. And then the game right after that, TCU, unforgettable career moments for me in that game. I'm still sometimes I look back at it and I'm like, wow, I had so much fun that game, just like flying around, making saves, and being in the NCAA tournament. It's 40 degrees outside. My parents are there. I'm close to home. Like, it was everything that you could imagine. It was an awesome game. It was so fun.
You've had a few NIL deals, one of course with us and the other as a Runners Rising athlete. How do you feel about how NIL has impacted the average college athlete and the benefit this extra support can get y'all?
Yeah, I think it's really huge, especially for women's sports as well. I think having an extra way to make money as a busy college athlete it's really huge, and you see like it more and more. It's getting kind of spread out to every type of athlete. It's not just football. And like for me, having Runners Rising and having this NIL and having something like Chicken and Pickle to be able to like have an extra bit of income and be rewarded more for all the work you do on and off the field it's really good.
Well, if you want to find a way to support Mia from Meep Meep Nation, we're going to show on the screen right now out this shirt. She is definitely someone that you should be supporting for UTSA soccer and just UTSA athletics in general. This is the way that you can support her right here. All the proceeds go to Mia in her athletic journey here. So Mia, thank you so much for joining us on this quick little get to know Mia Krusinski here on Meep Meep Nation. We're looking forward to having you back on soon.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
All right, well, there you have it. Coach Pittman, Mia Krusinski. What a great way to talk about UTSA soccer here on this episode of Meep Meep Nation. I really enjoyed our conversation with Coach. He really broke down a lot of things. Yeah, moving from Conference USA to American is tough, but I like the way that this team in this direction is going. It's nice to see that the facility at Park West is looking good. And it was really awesome to just have that quick little icebreaker with Mia, Meep Meep Nation athlete. That's awesome to be able to support her in certain ways. You can do that this as well with checking out our shop and checking out that Mia shirt. And Caleb, it was just really nice to have a quick icebreaker with her. We're definitely going to have her on again soon once the season starts. But overall, really good time talking to those two.
Yeah, always love visiting with those two and looking forward to helping getting that beer garden built.
Yes, we got to make that happen at Park West. We're already seeing a huge amount of supporters showing up. 7,002. Coach Pittman did say we're going to have a possible huge home game next season of a potential Power 5. Looking forward to seeing what that is. And maybe we can break that 7,002. I'm sure a couple liquid courage beverages wouldn't hurt that as well. So let's make sure we can get something going with that beer garden. All right, well, let's wrapping up this show. We do have something happening today on Monday, and as the beginning of college basketball. Both the men's and the women's are in action to start off the season. On the women's side first, they are heading west. They're against Arizona State, 7 o'clock Central Time for that one. UTSA taking on Arizona State. Remember, they were projected to be in the middle of the American Athletic Conference. I believe we said it was 8th in media days for their preseason. I've gone on record, and I'll say it again, this team will finish in the top 5 in the conference once all said and done, so keep a lookout on them. You can find that game at 7 o'clock Central Time. I believe it's on Pac-12 Network. And then for the men's side, they're at the Convo. They're taking on Western Illinois, 7 o'clock Central Time. Hey, UTSA, I know that there are some dark days in the past, but this team has a lot of transfers, a lot of newcomers. There were some really good positive looks in the exhibition games. UTSA is a 5.5-point favorite, ladies and gentlemen, in this one. So be sure to go to the Convo and check that one out. Again, 7 o'clock Central Time. You can see Caleb if you're going to go and check out the men's game. Caleb's going to be there. What are you looking forward to at this men's basketball game? I know you're at the exhibition. You saw some really interesting things.
Hey, undefeated, nowhere to go but up.
That's right. No way to go but up. I love it. There's a lot of new transfers, a lot of new faces, and there's just there should be a lot of optimism with this team. So take it as a grain of salt, if you will. I know we've heard some things in the past from some of our listeners and comments, but it's a new season. So let's see what they got. I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to have coverage on this page from both the men's and the women's soccer team this winter, all the way to March and April, and then in the offseason as well. But we are going to have you covered here every single game, every step of the way, meepmeepnation.com and the YouTube page. And you can check us out on our socials as well. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Meep Meep Nation. Thank you so much for joining us, your source for all things Roadrunner. We'll see you back here next time. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.